Hello, my name is Dean Contover, and this is a new season. And we had COVID-19, so you all know about that. We have Chief of Police of Chelmsford, James M. Spinney. He's going to talk about COVID-19, what's happened in the police department. This is a new era, and we're not at a table. We have chairs, and this is how we're going to do it for a while. Welcome back. Again, new season, and thank you for coming, Chief.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I have a few questions. How do you respond in regards to COVID-19? That since we've had it, in March, etc. How's your department handling it? How do they approach people? How do they, if they arrest someone, how do they approach that?
Yeah, so we're basically in March when we got word that things were really ramping up and it looked like the state was going to close down, we initiated a number of protocol changes within the department. We changed the shifts so officers would work longer shifts but have more days away, less chance of exposure.
Right.
We discontinued roll calls, so the officers did not meet in the same room anymore, kept them separate. They'd go right to their cruisers. They do roll call via text and whatnot, and email.
So what does roll call entail? When you have a roll call, do you tell them what happened, like if there was a bank robbery in town?
Sure. So typically every shift begins with a roll call where at the beginning of the shift, all the officers working that shift would normally meet in one room with the supervisors.
Right.
And they would go over what's going on, what just happened in the shift prior, any alerts in town, suspicious activity, things that need to be followed up on, things of that nature. But the problem with that is you have a dozen officers in the same room in close proximity to each other. So that was one of the first things we changed. So that's gone right now. The officers come in, they get their gear, and they go right out to the cruiser while maintaining social distance.
Okay. How many cruisers do you have?
The whole fleet?
Yeah, the whole
probably about 20.
20.
And that includes, some unmarked vehicles for the detectives, et cetera.
Who performs maintenance? I mean, you have to change the oil and so forth. So they're ready to go when they pick up their cruisers. Is that my
right? So we're fortunate here in Chelmsford. We have our own full-time police mechanic.
Okay.
And he is in the garage directly behind the police facility.
Okay.
And he maintains the fleet. He keeps constant checks on oil, batteries, equipment, tires, you name it. He has a whole chart going so the cars get regular maintenance. Because, half a dozen of those cars run 24/7.
No.
So he does a great job, and he keeps an eye on the entire fleet, and then he makes recommendations to me what cars need to be retired from the fleet. And then every year, we normally get 4 cars a year, but in light of some of the budget issues that Chelmsford's experiencing, we've got 3 this year.
Okay.
And I'm expecting them actually any week now, and they're going to be hybrids. They're going to be Ford Explorer hybrids, so we're trying to go green.
Okay.
So
that's interesting.
Yeah, so we're going to, and hopefully if they work out, we'll continue the entire fleet that way.
Okay. You just got some new guys out of the academy. How many came?
Yeah, so we had 2 that graduated several months ago, and it was kind of a shame because normally the academy would have a big graduation ceremony for them. There was none.
Oh.
So what we did at the police station is we had the 2 new officers with a couple members of their immediate family, and we did a little ceremony outside.
Okay. Did you have cake?
No.
Okay. I don't know what you.
And then we just had another officer graduate, Officer Reardon. He just graduated less than a month ago.
Okay.
So now we're at full complement. A ton of new officers, though. The last 5 or 6 years, we've probably hired like 15 officers.
Wow. So what's the total now?
So now we're at 54 total complement.
Okay.
And I expect I expect a retirement this fall and another retirement at the end of next year. So we want to maintain that, full complement.
Yeah, interesting. I have some things to ask you that I wrote down. Because of the COVID-19, inspection stickers were delayed. Now they're back up to speed. So everyone out there, look at your car, look at the number in regard to your inspection sticker and get it updated. It used to be a chargeable offense, right?
I think it's been a while since it has been, but it's no longer surchargeable.
Okay.
It's not a moving violation. So you were right. In addition to having some of those things delayed, they also delayed if you had to renew your driver's license. But I think all that's back up now. But to answer your question, no, if you get pulled over with an expired inspection sticker, there's a citation fine involved.
Right.
But not an impact on your insurance.
Yeah, and don't take if you have a sticker that's not up to date, don't take it into Boston because they're watching you when you park your car.
Are they?
They watch that. The other thing, we had a bank robbery, Eastern Bank, the other day. What's the update on that?
Yeah, so Friday afternoon, a subject with a motorcycle helmet, all dressed in black, walked into the bank on right at Chelmsford Street at Glen, Eastern Bank, I believe, and he showed a pistol, so that's really pretty scary, pretty serious.
Yeah.
And fled the bank on a black motorcycle, and we did a press release on that. And you can check our website. And we also launched a new social platform at the police department called Tip 411. And anybody can send a tip into the police department completely anonymous.
Right.
Or you can download the Chelmsford Tip 411 app at the App Store, and you remain anonymous and regard anything, suspicious activity, and an officer may answer you and follow-up question, but your identity is always anonymous.
Okay. Also, in regards to if you have a tip, you can call this number if you want to take it down and put it in your cell phone. It's 978-256-2521.
Right.
And that's the more or less the business line.
That's the non-emergency line.
Non-emergency line, because not everything is, 911.
Right, 911 should be for a true emergency, you know,
Yeah.
if someone's choking, there's a
Right.
crime in progress, that, people are in danger,
Or
a
there's a
bad car
robbery in
accident.
process.
Robbery would be
Right.
911, a
Yeah.
bad accident.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. So again, that number is 978-256-2521. And you can look it up. It's on the website. So you could do that. I know last time we've had you on, you said you had a lot of mental health issues with people
In the community?
in the
Yeah.
community,
Yep.
and not only your other communities
Sure.
too. It's been a major problem, and we've hired somebody. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, so it's been a growing issue in our region. I work with the district attorney, Marion Ryan, from Middlesex County,
Right.
about mental health issues across the district and substance abuse. A lot of times they go hand in hand. Chelmsford was fortunate enough to hire a community coordinator, Jen Melanson. So whether it's a substance abuse issue or a homeless person issue or a hoarding issue, we reach out to Jen. She's at the town hall, and she'll respond to these scenes and deal with people as opposed to necessarily a police officer doing it.
Right.
But we have direct contact with her. She follows up for us on some of these issues. She's been a big help.
Does she report to you? Who does she report
So
to?
she reports directly to the town manager.
Okay.
But no, we're more of a partnership with her.
Oh, okay.
She'll reach out to me and my staff if something's brought to her attention, and we'll do the same thing.
I see. Okay. Good. That's very important.
Yeah, I think it's a great move for the town to do it.
Yeah. I remember the town voted on it, and that was real important and everything.
And we also, real quick, we also have our own clinicians through Leahy. We have our Frontline initiative that we've been working on with a grant for a number of years, where we have access to a clinician at Leahy that will respond and deal with substance abuse and mental
wow.
health. It's part
Oh,
of a
that's good.
multi-town grant that we're part of with Borica, Drake, at Tingsboro, and Tewksbury.
Right.
It's been working out great, and it's expanding.
And you think it helps?
Oh, it definitely helps, because we'll hand that off to a licensed medical professional to deal with people, to facilitate a path forward for them, and it's been great.
And do you get feedback from the people, or that say?
Well, we
"Thanks for
try to
helping
hand
me"?
it off where we don't want people to think that we're monitoring them once they start getting
I
treatment.
see.
So we don't get a lot of feedback, but we get feedback from the clinician staff who will say how many cases are open, how many they've closed out, if, people moving forward, getting the treatment they need, that type of thing.
School is starting. You're going to have the blinking yellow lights. What's that mean when you go by a school?
Yeah, so with school starting again, we got to adhere to those speed zones again. We have to be careful, those 20-mile-an-hour speed zones. So we'll hit that early, even though at this point it appears that we're going to a hybrid type of schedule.
Right.
But yeah, the officers in our traffic unit will be out there in the school zones again, trying to remind the public to please,
Yeah, slow down when
Slow
you go
down.
through a school.
Yep.
You take that pretty seriously, don't you?
Yeah, because that's, no one wants to see that. I mean, a child running outside
Walking
from a parked
home.
car, walking.
Yeah.
You got to go slow, especially they're all near the ball fields. Yeah, you got to be very, very careful.
Right. Yeah. So I'd like to talk about the firearms. if you don't know, in Massachusetts, you have to go through the police chief to get a permit to, and you can download this and to apply for a pistol permit.
Correct.
Am I correct?
Right.
And in the process, there's a lieutenant, I believe.
So I have a detective that reports directly to me. So when you apply for a license to carry or an FID card, so for those who don't know, an FID card allows you to possess a rifle, excuse me, a rifle or shotgun, and a license to carry concealed would obviously refer to a pistol. So when you apply for these things, there's a packet you fill out at the police station. The packet is reviewed by Detective Ubley, and then as long as you're not statutorily disqualified, in other words, you've committed a crime in your past, then now you're disqualified legally from possessing it, or it's not a suitability issue. In other words, maybe you've done something that it wasn't a crime, but maybe the person's had serious mental health problems, or we've been to the house for a number of domestics where there's been allegations of crimes. That could be a suitability disqualifier.
I see.
And then I make that decision.
I see, okay. Just for people who are interested in applying,
Right.
For one, they have a right to apply.
Yep, they have a right to apply. It takes a couple months because we have to send the application off to the state
Right.
and the FBI. And if for some reason they disagree with my determination, there is an avenue for appeal through the district court.
Okay, yeah. Well, you have a right through for the First Amendment to appeal things, so
Yep.
that's right. You've heard of George Floyd, right? Minneapolis, and I'm sorry that your department has to go through the psychological thing of that and everything like that, and the repercussions. And there was a rally in Chelmsford on June 5th. You spoke at the rally, right?
Yep.
And I would estimate there were like 500 people there. I was really surprised.
Yeah, I think
at
you're
the
right.
Numbers,
It was
500 to 600.
It was a large turnout. It was great to see the community come together for that. Speaking for the men and women in Chelmsford Police, we were as disgusted and appalled with Mr. Floyd's murder as anyone. That's not why we wear
You
this
called
badge.
it a murder.
Exactly, because it was.
Yeah.
And that person that did that should face justice, and he will. We were appalled. We were sickened. We pride ourselves in Chelmsford on professionalism and empathy and respect.
Right.
I think we do a great job in this community. I think most people in town would agree with that, with our outreach and our community initiatives that we do. It's all about community policing and being transparent. So yeah, it was a great turnout for the community for a very, very tragic event. And we're all hoping as a society we can continue to move.
You know, I mean, people say, oh, Black Lives Movement and so forth. I look at it as a civil rights movement, but that's been attached to it. Right. I mean, when you saw the people that were out, there were millions of people out in the street.
Oh, yes.
In regards to demonstrating.
And all ethnic backgrounds.
In all ethnic backgrounds. And you saw that even in Chelmsford. And other communities, I mean, the small communities like Drake and Tewksbury. I mean, I was reading where 20 people showed up in Northfield, which is a small little town north of Greenfield, and I mean, it was moving for a lot of people. Yep. And I know there's a few people who, disturb the community and cause problems and so forth. I mean, that's to be expected. There's always that percentage of people that you're going to...
Yeah, but we haven't seen much of that in town. I think the town's been very, very supportive of the cause and that justice needs to be for everybody.
Right.
I was happy to...
Yeah. People have a right to demonstrate in this country, and we've been doing it since the Boston Tea Party, that people have a right to.
Yep.
If we didn't, there'd be a lot of repression held back, and there'd be a problem.
Yeah, we had a couple rallies in town, and they were all very peaceful, well organized, and we pulled out all the stops to facilitate them being safe, and I'm glad to say they went off well.
Yeah, I think so. So now the repercussion is in the Beacon Hill, right? And they want to pass a certain bill in regards to. Do you feel it's hampered the bill? Did you read the bill, or what do you understand?
Well, I haven't seen a final version.
Okay.
I saw some early drafts.
Okay.
Some parts of it were concerning. Some were fine. We're fine with reform.
Right.
We're fine with being held responsible. We're fine with training. There's just some things that we felt were a little rushed, and we didn't get necessarily what we felt was an adequate seat at the table with drafting some of these things. But I'd say the vast majority of many of the much of the legislation that I saw, we're already doing in Chelmsford. We're an accredited agency. We have very strict policies, very high standard hiring procedures. Where we don't do chokeholds, we don't deploy military grade gas, tear gas, things like that. So we've already ahead of the curve, I think. So I welcome reform. We welcome certification of officers. We don't want to see people in this profession that shouldn't be here.
Right.
So a lot of it we welcome. We just thought initially it was being rushed, but I'm glad to see that since it's been in conference committee, it seems like it's slowed down. So we're waiting to see the final verdict.
Right. So decertification means that if somebody does something wrong in a police department, let's say he's let go, and he would be decertified from certification as a police officer. Is that?
Yeah. So I guess at this point, if we were to let somebody go in Chelmsford, nothing would stop them from going to
Another state.
Groton or another state,
Yeah.
or let's just say Massachusetts for the sake of argument, because they want to do a state certification.
Right.
Nothing would stop them from going to another department and reapplying, and maybe that department, if they're not as thorough as they should be, doesn't call me. So under the certification guideline, if you're decertified, you cannot be a police officer in Massachusetts. And there's calls to maybe have a federal certification, which I would be in favor too. Mm-hmm. If you have someone out there that's a rogue officer that's violating people's rights and not upholding the law and not upholding their oath or proper ethics and whatnot, they shouldn't be a police officer anywhere. So that's something that we'd like to see.
I was talking to a wrestling coach and a couple of wrestlers. They told me that for a takedown, they use that hold, with the head and so forth, and to take down the wrestler, and it's disputed in regards to a chokehold. I know you could be real tight on it, and you could be loose and take the person down. I don't want to put you on the stand in regards to
yeah, I think the optics we've seen on chokeholds aren't good.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's definitely instances where you might put your arms around someone if they're resisting, and you have to bring them to the ground. Right. But that certainly wouldn't excuse someone that has someone in a chokehold that's otherwise not resisting. So unless it's a life or death situation where the officer will be justified in using deadly force anyway, we don't see a need for that hold. There's a lot of other techniques with arm bars and things of that nature. If someone's resisting, that's just as effective.
Okay, this is a very important question because I don't even know what it is. What does qualified immunity mean? Can you elaborate in detail?
Well, I probably won't be able to do it. I probably won't be able to do a justification. But the way I think of it is, qualified immunity is if I'm acting in good faith. Right. Let's say I think I'm doing everything right, and I exercise a search warrant in someone's house, and I don't know it, but the search warrant's wrong, okay, and I go in the wrong house, okay? Qualified immunity protects the officer because he was acting in good faith.
I see.
People get confused. Just because we have qualified immunity does not mean you cannot sue the police officer as things are right now, and you could sue the officer, and you could sue the town, and you could sue the department. If an officer did something so egregious or so outside the law or acted in such a disregard, he can be sued right now. Qualified immunity is just protecting officers acting in good faith.
I see.
I thought I was doing everything right, and it happened to be that it wasn't right.
And mistakes happen.
Mistakes happen. Yeah. And this is police work can be very messy.
Yeah.
It's not reading graphs and everything lines up. It's not black and white. It's you show up to a scene, people are very emotional, things can go sideways quick, officers have to make split-second decisions.
Right.
And if some of these protections are removed, then you're going to see officers hesitate. And hesitation can lead to more problems. Mm-hmm. Now, again, we are not in favor of officers being people looking the other way when officers do wrong. That's not what this is about. But the simplest way I look at qualified immunity is if the officer is acting in good faith, if he thinks what he's doing is correct and just.
Then why do they want to add that to the bill? What's the reason for that?
I think some people think of it as it makes it impossible for people to be held accountable the way it is now, and I just don't think that's the case.
Okay. No knock. Another example.
So a no-knock warrant, we need a judge only to authorize that.
Okay.
So police departments just don't go out and deploy no-knock warrants.
Right.
This is another misconception.
Right.
These warrant applications, if we have, and they're very rare. I can't even, I think in the 6 years I've been chief, we've never done one.
Right.
Okay, so they're very, very rare.
Right.
They're high-risk warrants if someone's in the house that's extremely dangerous.
Right.
And obviously you don't want to knock on the door and go, police are here.
Yeah.
So a no-knock warrant application needs to be brought to court and signed off on.
So you have to justify it.
You have to justify it in the four corners of the affidavit why you need this. So this is not something the police departments just deploy and do. But again, if they want to add another level of accountability to that, that's not a major issue. Because it's a very rare thing to begin with.
Okay. We have defunding of the police department, right? I'm against it. What's that mean to you when you think of defunding?
Well, I don't think it's the most realistic phrase
Right.
because obviously,
think so either.
what would we do without local jurisdictional law enforcement in place to just, I mean, I think of the medicals we go to along and the well-being checks and the disturbance calls and the 911 hang-ups and the
just
car
like,
accidents.
Like we were talking about vehicles too. I mean,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Cut back on your vehicles, buying your new vehicles?
Luckily, we've had a lot of support here in Chelmsford. Nothing's come up with that with my budget. I am in favor, though, of more clinicianal type employees coming into play to replace police officers on some of these mental health calls.
So you're saying we could expand 911? We could use 911 as an avenue for them to come out?
Yeah, the only problem is, do you send a clinician to what could be an emotional unknown issue without protection?
Well, no. I mean, it also could be 911, or you could buzz them or whatever, and they could be at the scene.
Like a co-response, I'd be
Exactly.
in complete favor of more
Yeah.
co-response. Sure.
Do you think we should expand 911? I mean, that's a new question. I mean, that's kind of difficult to answer.
I think again, there could be offshoots of emergency services.
Right.
If you know it's a mental health situation, then maybe a clinician gets activated in real time, and they
Right,
respond with
exactly.
the officer. Which we've done that a little. We've had a pilot program where we were driving around with a clinician.
Oh, is
so
that
I think
right?
Chelmsford was ahead of the curve there too. But I'd be in favor of that expansion.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. We're going to keep our call center here in town?
I
I
hope
know
so.
that
That hasn't come up again in a couple of years now. Our equipment's all brand new. I think they do a fantastic job.
Okay.
I wouldn't be in favor of outsourcing that right now.
If you want to make a phone call to Chief Spinney, please use the sort of business line number. It's 978-256-2521. Put that in your phone when you call for something, a flat tire or something like that. They're not going to fix it. But just call them at 978-251-2521. And there's prompts there, right? I mean,
Yeah, so after you dial the number, there's an auto attendant that takes over, and one of the options is Chief's office. And you can press that, and it goes to my assistant and my phone.
Okay.
And I also have email on the town website,
all right,
jspinney@chelmsfordma.gov.
right. If you like the show, you could email them and say, I like them.
Well, I'm sure they like the Dean show.
Huh?
I'm sure everybody likes your show.
I don't know about that, but we'll see. Paintball. Do you get paintball complaints?
Very rarely.
Really? But that's offensive. Is that
Yeah,
offensive?
we
If
haven't
somebody
had a-
hits your house with a paintball, that's
Yeah.
offensive to me.
And it's even worse if somebody shoots somebody else with it. Well, I saw in some community, people were driving by people, pelting them. It's terrible.
Yeah.
That's an assault dangerous
To
weapon.
me, it's an assault.
Yeah, it is. That's a felony, actually.
Yeah.